Here comes the theme music.
All right.
Hey, welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 67 for Wednesday, October 12th, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined in the PETM Podcast studio by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Well, we're back on a hump day.
Hump day?
I know we keep swapping days on y'all, and we're not, that's not intentional. We're not trying to confuse you. We're just trying to make sure our work schedule works out, because as it turns out, this is still just a hobby.
It's a hobby. It's not, we're definitely in the deep red on this thing at best. So, what can I say?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is a hobby. Hobbies are expensive.
right. Which is a shame because
thankfully it's not like remote control airplanes, because we'd be way deeper in the hole.
Yeah. Well, I keep taking on more and more hobbies that are like, I need to get paid for one of these at some point, and I'm banking on the podcast. What do you say, PTM Posse? You gonna pay me $1 million?
Right.
I don't think so.
I reckon not.
Anyway, you know how we always start this show, but record scratch, right? We're not going to start the show that way. Why?
Well, because we did the What You Drinking as a part of our recording with Ms. Juliette Miranda, author of Morning Neurosis. So perhaps we'll give them a little taste of NASCAR and then dip into that interview.
Well, let's go for it. How about let's start maybe with number 67.
That sounds like a great way to start.
Let's do that. So number 67, and I think we even had some folks write in for us. Who was it? Was it Greg that wrote in?
No, it was Jeff Brown, who's
Jeff Brown.
Should be a historian of NASCAR. Dude knows everything.
It's probably his hobby, and nobody's paying him for it. But
well, there's that.
Good for him. Number 67. Well, you wrote this one down. Jeff Gordon attempted 3 Busch races in that car.
Yeah, Jeff gave me that.
That's neat.
I'll attribute that to him.
I saw David Pearson ran 31 races in that car.
I did not know that.
Which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe a season or whatever that would have been, or on and off or whatever. But number 67 is, by no stretch of the imagination, and absolutely is Buddy Arrington's car.
Buddy.
Yeah, 481 races in the 67 car, and he had
just a couple.
Yeah, and he had 560 races total. Now, unfortunately, he kind of has second place in the most number of starts without a win. So that's a little bit. Yeah, never had a win. 560 starts, no wins through the 60s.
Second only to Richard Childress.
60s through the 80s. It was I wrote it down. J.D. McDuffie.
Oh, McDuffie.
653. I wrote 653 wins in the show notes. 653
awesome.
No wins is actually what I should have put. But Buddy. He has a piece of my heart. Mopar for life. That was his thing.
Mopar for life. He was the last guy to race a Mopar until the reboot in 2001. So it was like 85 maybe.
So
he was still running a Dodge motor.
They discontinued in 83, and he still kept running them for 2 years.
I'm just going to keep on running it.
And Mopar finally said, we're not even going to give you parts anymore. Like, what are you talking about? So ran that Chrysler under Mopar. They pulled out in 1985. He was done. Best finish was third in 1979. Cool piece of trivia. He lapped Richard Petty in Richard Petty's old car. Like Richard,
he bought
the car off of him
before his car,
and then lapped him,
and then beat him with it.
At Dega.
Whoops.
Self-funded owner driver. All his crew were volunteers. He was always a penny pincher in that respect. So that's
felt like that's
pretty
pretty normal back then, although not for a competitive car. So
don't
that's
see
cool.
Nowadays. His last race was in Daytona in 1988, and today he's 78 years old out there. So raising the glasses.
Cheers to Buddy.
To Buddy Arrington, and that's his real name, by the way. Not like Donald Buddy Arrington.
No. On his birth certificate it says Buddy.
Buddy.
How about that? That's like Buddy Brotherton from Days of Thunder.
Yeah. Quick update. Kenny Smith, 24K PTM podcast car at Lee County Speedway there in Iowa. Had some, we talked about it. We just had our last podcast on Saturday, so we're right back in the
It's only
studio.
been a few days.
Yeah.
We're on the short run here.
That's right. We'll be on a little bit longer run for next week. We'll talk about it later, but he's back again this weekend at Lee County for a 2-day show and approaching the last 3 weeks of the season. Can't believe how fast it's gone by. Because I remember it was like we were talking to him. And he's like, "Yeah, we're doing like 50 races, blah blah blah." And now we're down to the last 3 weeks, so he's piling them up.
Where did it go?
It went into the top 10 machines. Where it went.
Definitely. Hashtag top 10 machine.
That's right. That's
Kenny
right.
Smith,
Well,
24K car.
I don't think we need to stall any longer.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get Juliette queued up.
Yeah, so Juliette Miranda, y'all. Y'all remember last time from the Morning Neurosis podcast, or the Unwritable Rant podcast, rather, and at Morning Neurosis, and she's theunwritablerant.com. She joined us back in the studio, and we were super excited to have her, and this was a boatload of fun. So, without further ado, here's Juliette Miranda. All right, here we are. We've got Juliette Miranda on the show with us. Thanks for joining, Juliette. How you doing today?
Hey, y'all. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Sherwin.
Very good, very good.
Absolutely. We both independently. So Sherwin tweeted this out, and then he told me, hey, we've got a guest for this week. Juliette Miranda said she'd come back on. And I didn't know he had already tweeted this out, and I texted it to him. I said, well, we didn't scare her off then. That's good news.
Yeah. We're pretty lockstep in our frame of mind. It feels like sometimes.
That's the truth. So thank you for joining us once again. Didn't run you off. Appreciate you being here.
No, you're welcome. I'm glad I didn't scare you guys off.
Absolutely not. I'll tell you something that might scare us off. Heard that you had some storms in the area tonight, so we're battling those during the podcast here.
Yeah, if things cut out or get wonky, it's not that I don't love you. It's that Mother Nature hates me.
Is this like go sit
Mother
out?
Nature hates us for sure, too, by the way.
Is this the like go out and sit out on the covered porch and watch the rain and thunderstorms kind of thing? Or is this like the go down into the basement, into the bathroom area and, talk to us?
Oh, it's all the same to me. I will run out in the middle of a storm and just wave my arms around. I love thunderstorms.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, me and the wife like to go sit on the tailgate of my truck underneath the carport and watch them go by while we're drinking something, which, speaking of,
Yes.
Juliette, what you drinking today?
Today, I actually am doing things up a little bit differently. I have a glass of St. George absinthe.
Ooh. Well, we'll talk about absinthe.
We'll talk about that a little bit later for sure.
Sherwin?
Right now, I just got that Jim Beam 7-year.
Okay.
A little bit special
white label.
The white. They finally put it in a different shaped bottle so you can tell the difference. Wonder why it's $10 more expensive. And some Diet Tonic.
Nice. I'm sitting here with the leftover, the last little bit of this bourbon you brought over, the Calumet Farm.
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff's really tasty.
It's a 10-year single barrel that they do specifically for particular liquor store groups.
Oh, cool. Well, it's pretty tasty.
Right.
Juliette, have you had that one?
I haven't. Actually, I'm curious about that Jim Beam 7-year that you're drinking. How is it?
It's nice. It's really nice. It's hard for me on, like, if you draw the graph of value versus taste, it's hard for me to say that it's that much better than what the regular white label is. I think it's supposed to be an average of 4 years aged or something like that. So I don't know that it's that much better. I think if you're looking for the next level of Jim Beam, then it's the black label that Rusty usually buys.
Yeah, big fan of the black label here.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know Evan Williams has an 8-year single barrel vintage out right now that I bought, and I actually wasn't that thrilled with it. And I know kind of distilleries are starting to do these small barrel, vintage varieties. I'm not kind of sold on it, but
well,
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think I have probably looked at that bottle before and said, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I've bought a few that I didn't think were that great. I think there's been a couple. The Defiance one we bought that was not. It was like a North Carolina version of an Irish whiskey, and it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it was only like a $25 fifth.
Yeah, that thing was delicious.
So it was pretty high value for taste.
Yeah,
situation
that one
with
just
that one.
right over rocks or even neat was great. So
Nice.
I needed to thank you for the last time we talked. You gave me the advice to go into the bar and order a Booker's neat or on the rocks or whatever. I did on the rocks. Said, how about a Booker's on the rocks? And, of course, like you said they would, bartender looks at me and says, all right. And, really good idea, and I've had it a couple times. I haven't got it in the store yet, but I need to go find that in the store and have my own Booker's so that when people come over, I can be like, all right, how about a Booker's on the rocks? And then go, oh, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah, tomorrow.
I'm glad that worked out.
Tomorrow works. So we wanted to talk to you about absinthe, of all things, the things you're drinking on right there. We were kind of telling a funny story in the pre-show here when we were talking that me and Sherwin, I think the first time and the last time probably that I've bought a bottle of absinthe, it became legal to have, I think it may have been in the U.S. actually.
Yeah, Yeah,
Or,
it was a federal deal.
yeah. So I said in the pre-show that it was Georgia, but I think it was in the U.S. And of course, we were early 20s or whatever we were, and we said, "Oh man, absinthe, that's the stuff that gets you high. We're going to see the face of God tonight, boys."
Yeah, it's like it was peyote or something.
Yeah, right.
The green fairy is coming.
And we drank on it, and we were lighting spoons of sugar on fire and stuff, and all the things you're supposed to do, and knocking it in there. And I tell you what, I think we all took that first big gulp and kind of looked at each other and went, "Oh, I mean, not terrible, but yeah, it's alcoholic.
Different.
And I don't know." So talk to us about absinthe, because that would have been whatever plastic bottle of absinthe that was out there that was affordable then, and I've never really drank it as a thing. I said on the pre-show that I order a Sazerac every once in a while, and I enjoy that, but for me, it's not about the absinthe type that's in there. It's more about what rye or whatever I've got in there. And so absinthe as a drinking whiskey, let's talk about it.
Well, you know what? If you like the ritual of sipping bourbon and whiskey, then absinthe is absolutely something you can get into because it's all about the ritual of it. I will dispel a couple of myths. When it was illegal in the United States, it wasn't because it was hallucinogenic or anything. It was just because what was being imported from overseas had an insanely high proof. I mean, we're talking like, 120, 130 proof.
Okay.
So that's what got people all wacky. It wasn't the food zone. It was the fact that you're drinking essentially fire water.
Yeah, was like 50% stronger than a standard American proof of 80.
Right.
Exactly. Right. And here's the other thing. Never, ever set your absinthe on fire. Just don't do it. It's not necessary. The reason people did that was actually in Prague because it was so undrinkable that you had to burn some of the alcohol out of it.
Ah,
interesting.
Okay.
So that was a way of proofing it down just with a little bit of flair?
Exactly. So when you drink it now, all you do, you can have it with sugar or without. I like it without sugar because I don't like sweet drinks. But you just do a slow water drip. And what happens is that absinthe is a lot of herbs. So when you drop the water in it, it kind of opens them up. It gets this really nice sort of oily look, and it starts to change color a little bit. And that's called the louche. So that it gets that cool, like oily, swirly sort of feel to it. And then, you've got this great, really rich, just cool, intricate, complex drink.
So what can you expect out of like different bottles? So I think with whiskey, we kind of know. Is it a similar flavor profile in terms of like the differences between one and the next, or is it a whole different new thing?
It's entirely different. I think the closest thing that I can compare it to would be Sambuca.
Kind
it
of
has
a licorice.
a licorice sort of flavor to it. And if you add more water to it, that kind of dilutes it a little bit. And then different varieties of absinthe will have other herbal flavors to it. Some of them have a little bit of spearmint in them.
Okay.
Others are a little bit more spicy. Some actually add a little bit of cinnamon. So you have a whole variety of stuff to pick from. And what's cool is that when they age it, some do it in old brandy barrels. It just depends on the distillery.
Is it typically an aged drink?
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool. How long?
It varies. I mean, it's not like whiskey wherein, you need like 4 years for it to taste good. It's really more about letting the herbs kind of macerate in the alcohol.
Gotcha. And so the differences in flavor profile from one to another is really maybe even compare it to gin or something where it's about the different herbals that you're getting from what I'm hearing. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Tell us about some bottles that are your favorites.
Well, I think the most readily available one is from St. George. That's what I'm drinking, and that's a San Francisco distillery. They use a very traditional recipe, only they age it in brandy barrels, so it has a little bit more of a kind of like a port flavor to it in a way. And they don't use any artificial colorings to it, which a lot of places do. That's bad. If you look at the bottle and it's like neon green, you don't want to drink that nonsense.
I was going to say green was something I associated with absinthe.
Yeah, same here. So,
and it can be pale green, and that's from the herbs. But when it's like that weird neon green, like
it glows in the dark.
Yes, yeah. Why do you want to drink that? That's gross. Just run away.
So you mentioned it was it's made in San Francisco. Were there any other? Or is that like a new thing for it to be made in the U.S. or fairly new based on when it came out, or were people actually making it and we just didn't have access to it here before?
It's a pretty new thing. A lot of distilleries are starting to experiment with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a place in Chicago that is. Now, me personally, I really like the old French recipes and the Swiss recipes, so I'll have mine imported from overseas. And you've got to be a little bit crafty about that because some of them have that original alcohol content. So you don't necessarily know if you're going to get your order, if it's going to get in through customs or not.
Ah, okay. Is there a limit that customs has on it? Or are they just...
Not explicitly. It really depends on how it's shipped. The place that I order it from just labels it as glassware.
Okay. Gotcha. Talk to us about the wormwood. That's the thing that back in our days, that was what we were supposed to.
That's where like the LSD,
see the stars and the lights.
Right.
Something was in there.
Yeah, it's not. It's just an herb. It's not going to do anything.
Damn it! You burst our bubble.
I know.
I'm sorry. I know everybody's all excited about the green fairy, but wormwood is just another herb. Now, it is toxic if you have too much of it.
No, thank you.
Right?
That's the worst of it.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder where that myth came from. Was that some?
Oh, it's been perpetuated through the years. I mean, it was a very big drink during the Bohemian era in Paris. And the word on the street is that Van Gogh cut off his ear when he was drinking absinthe, and Toulouse-Lautrec did all of his great masterpieces while hammered on absinthe. So.
It was probably something else.
I blame the gypsies.
It was probably just the booze. It was that insane alcohol in it.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. You might not feel the ear thing after a few of them. 150 proof absinthe. So you've got breaking news. We were all excited. You're bringing breaking news to the PETM podcast
Yes.
with a TV gig. Tell us what's going on.
I've been invited to be on a TV show. It's a country music variety show that's broadcast out of Colorado. It's called The Joey Canyon Show. It's on Comcast and Dish. I actually had him on my show last month as part of my Country Legends episode. So it was him, T.G. Shepherd, and Janie Fricke. And we had such a great rapport during the interview that he actually contacted the publicist who arranged the interview and said, you know what, I got to have her on my show.
Wow.
I want to hear about podcasting. I think people need to know more about what this is.
Well, I listened to that episode, and I thought it was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I thought even though T.G. Shepherd is one B.A.
Yes.
gun, I thought the conversation with Canyon was actually the best. So,
but he's such a cool guy, and I love his show. I mean, he's truly bringing back the variety style country show. It's fun. He's got cool guests on. There's singing and interviews and everything. So I mean, they're flying me out to Colorado to do this. And
wow!
I keep wanting to be like, guys, you realize I'm just some chick who does a podcast in Chicago, right?
What a badge of encouragement there. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think we're probably not as excited as you are because it's you getting the experience, but we're pretty excited from afar. Can't wait to watch that thing whenever it hits.
Now, what's are you allowed to talk about what the show format is, what it's like? You say variety show, I mean like a yeehaw or something? I mean, that's more common.
It's inspired by that. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, he brings on a couple different musical acts every episode, and then some other people like me doing the podcast thing, other local people from the community who have charities, some local politicians, stuff like that. So it's a combination of music and entertainment and just, interesting stories.
And what channel is that going to be on? I know you said it. I wanted to repeat it.
I don't know what the
Not sure
exact
yet.
channel is,
Okay.
but I know that it's broadcast on Comcast and on Dish Network.
Cool. Well, we're going to have to find out what that is and get a recording and all that. So,
sure.
and you'll come back and you'll be, not having to talk to little people like us no more.
Yeah, be a TV star.
I highly doubt that. I just think it's cool that people are taking notice about podcasting now. I mean, it's starting to become a bigger thing. So I'm just really excited to be able to represent that.
That's very cool. And what a no better representative of podcasting than Juliette Miranda.
Oh, aren't you a sweetheart?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, just keep feeding off the good news. You've got an interview with Don McLean himself coming out soon. How about that?
It's coming out on Sunday.
Sunday.
Bye.
Everybody.
That's right. I think me and Sherwin both said earlier that we could both sing every lyric to that just a cappella, having no issues.
Everybody can.
I know,
it's so
right?
iconic.
It's like the
Well,
one
so
that you
in
have to memorize.
Atlanta, we used to have this like classic rock station called Z93, and on Saturdays they would play full length of those kind of songs that were typically cut. Like they would play the 7.5-minute version of Stairway to Heaven, and they would play the 8.5-minute version of American Pie. And so I got to hear some of those longer versions of the songs when I was a kid. And my dad was like, if you really like this song, like the 3-minute version, he's like, go buy this CD. And so I bought Don McLean's album. And, of course, Vincent was also on that, which is a great song about Vincent van Gogh.
Right.
Full circle.
All coming together.
You how did that one come about? I know you talked about it last time with Charlie Daniels. So I mean, the hits keep coming for you. How did the Don McLean interview come about?
Actually, it is the 45-year anniversary of American Pie. I mean, believe it or not, it's been out for 45 amazing years.
Wow.
Goodness, that's impressive.
So he's just kind of supporting that. He's touring and everything. So it seemed like with the elections going on right now, it seemed like a really kind of cool tie-in to have this Americana piece.
Oh, neat.
And Americana is like 100% what his music is.
Yes.
Like if that's the definition of Americana.
For sure. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I think
if he comes to Atlanta, we need to.
Yeah.
Like wheels are turning.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. You got to get on that.
Hey, we know the famous TV star Juliette Miranda. We'll just name drop a little bit.
Clearly, we're in the green room at that point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're lucky if that gets you on the lawn.
I've got a question for you, one that I didn't pose last time, and so I think this is a good advice question since I had the advice question last time and we got the bookers out of it. Tell me what your best bottle is under $50. If I need to play Jeopardy music, I can do that.
Yeah.
I kind of put you on the spot, I know.
Well, it's funny because the one that I just bought, and it's a little over $50, at least where I am, is Johnny Walker Platinum.
Interesting. I haven't
That's
heard
a
that
new
one.
variation for them, isn't it? Because it was
It's-
green, gold, and then blue, and then they've come in with something in between
And the
gold
black and the red, and we've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's right there in the middle. It's outstanding.
Another blend from them?
It is, yeah, and it's like the perfect balance of kind of smoky but smooth, and it's just so easy to drink. It's perfect for the winter. And here, I mean, it's starting to get really cold out, so I'm like stocking up on these on scotch, on the heavy duty bourbons, like Old Granddad 114. That's a great one to get, and that's only like $30.
That's awesome.
I'm going to try it very soon.
I'll get the platinum. I had kind of written off Johnny Walker as just kind of the big mainstream. If you're going to buy a scotch and it's your first time trying, get the black and see what you think about that flavor profile. But kind of written off their higher end stuff. I've had the green, I've had the blue, I've had all that. But yeah, if the platinum is good, I like their swing. Whether that was like a gimmick or something, I enjoyed it.
I didn't have that one.
Okay. Sherwin, what else we got?
I don't know. We talked about the cool things that are going on.
I know it.
So let me ask you this. We talked about this briefly in the DM conversation. You started up a second podcast with a comedian, the Reverend Bob
That's
Levy.
right.
And obviously that was harvesting entirely too much of your time to also commit to getting interviews you wanted to on the Unwritable Rant. So just tell us a little bit about how you go through that process of creating that podcast and then realizing that you really don't have time to sustain it.
Yeah, it was a brutal decision because the idea for the show actually happened when I interviewed the Reverend Bob Levy on my show, and we had such a great rapport. I mean, we were just like bouncing off of each other. It was hysterical, a great connection. And he just said, you know what, we need to do a show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, sure. I didn't even think about it because I was really honored that, this legendary comedian was like, hey, I want to work with you. So we did 5 episodes and I had a blast. I mean, it was just, it's an entirely different side of me. Like if you listen to my podcast, it's storytelling and, it's kind of like curated stories, but the show with Bob was just raw and just really just, kind of cutting edge stuff. But it was impossible for me to get it done, between, doing my show and, getting interviews and everything and, my books that I'm working on. I I was scrambling to get it done, and I felt like I wasn't doing it justice, and we got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I'm not even good. I'm not prepared, and I don't want to, put him in a position to have to say, well, you kind of suck. So, so it broke my heart to just be like, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's tough. Certainly enjoyed listening to those shows. They were definitely different. I would say edgy, at sometimes raunchy, but definitely very funny. I didn't know anything about Bob Levy until you interviewed him and then started the podcast, so that was interesting for me.
He is such a cool guy. It's so funny. He comes off as being, really hardcore and edgy, but underneath, he's just like the nicest guy on the planet.
Well, that's cool.
Kind of figured that.
Any collaborations, at least, in the future there?
I have no idea. I mean, we kind of left it open. I said, you know what, let me let things settle down and, get through the rest of this year and kind of see where things fall. And then, who knows, we might revisit something next year.
Well, cool.
That'd be cool.
Well, let's see. So you've got Don McLean interview posted on Sunday. You got the TV thing coming up. What else is coming up for Juliette Miranda over the next few months here?
Just, keep on keeping on, keep the show going, keep telling great stories. And I'm always on the quest to find better bourbon.
Excellent.
That's a good quest.
Excellent. Well, tell us where the PETM Posse can find you on Twitter and anything to promote and on the websites and all that stuff.
The one-stop shop is theunwritablерant.com. You will find all of the episodes of the podcast there. You can find, you can link to me on Twitter there, as well as, get links to iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. It's got everything.
Theunwritablерant.com, everybody. And, of course, at Morning Neurosis. And, Juliette, we got to thank you for joining us today. This has been awesome, and we're going to have to do it again and maybe get the next story coming out of the TV deal. So, love to hear.
Scenes.
Yeah, love to hear the green room side of that one.
Of course, I will give you the total scoop.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds great. Thanks guys.
Juliette.
Dude, so, once again, Juliette shows us how to do a podcast.
She's definitely better at it than we are.
I'll tell you what. So I don't know what to say. That was really cool. And every time we talk to her, I learned so much about something. Now I'm going to go buy a bottle of absinthe. She needs some sort of deal with these people that she keeps telling us to go buy stuff. Because now I got to go buy absinthe and figure out how to drink that.
She's certainly given us some good direction on what booze to be drinking.
Right? And this is like the fall booze, so we got to talk to her at least once season.
So we have to have absinthe for pumpkin party, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yep. So definitely. Let's switch gears. That's it's something that we talked to her afterwards and said, we're going to drop this right in the middle of a NASCAR podcast. And she said, "That's funny because I don't know much about NASCAR, and but we really think the perspective she brings on drinking and whiskey, I mean, that's just right up her alley. That's what we're all about. And so really cool to have her on and do that.
Well, she certainly had a lot of personal experience to draw from to create the stories that she has, to write the book she has. Mm-hmm. And she's very willing to share those stories, certainly through the podcast and even talking to us, people she doesn't know from Adam. So that's very cool, and the fact that she can come in and just sort of get really settled in and do a podcast with us, is pretty awesome. And so we're very happy to be able to do stuff like that for y'all. We don't know, how well that's received, but it was well received last time.
Y'all let us know.
We enjoyed it, and this is our hobby. So sometimes we're going to force things on you that maybe you don't want. Yeah. But if you'll just bear with us, you're going to get what you want after that.
Let's go back to NASCAR. You ready to do it?
NASCAR!
Let's tear it down. So, Xfinity. Let's start there. Ty Dillon, Brendan Poole, Ryan Sieg, Brandon Jones, all out.
Okay, so there's there's been a significant amount of chatter about the Ty Dillon situation.
The situation.
Well, I mean, the first half of the situation is the fact that somehow Ty Dillon could potentially miss the chase. Like, how is he not in? Mm-hmm. Like, how did he get eliminated? Like, hey, man, they've been running like 7th all year.
Well, yeah, the rules are pretty.
Did he win a race?
Straightforward. Right. And
is he a winner?
Yep, exactly.
And one of the things that the chase has proven to us is that if you can't win, you can't chase.
Right.
Like, there are very, very narrow slivers of incidents where you didn't win but somehow wound up in championship contention.
Right. Well, and Kyle Larson Updates at 42_updates asked us, what do y'all think about Ty Dillon's elimination, 1, and 2, the suspicious nature of Austin Dillon pitting late for a, quote fingers, mechanical issue, presumably awarding Ty a free point?
Well, so it's a happy bag of bull spit is what it is. And there's audio on the scanner stand that was played during some of the shows this week about how, well, you don't have to worry about XYZ because you know that 2's pulling over.
Right.
Like, there's no way the 2 is finishing in front of the 3, which is, where's that 100% rule come in?
Where's the 100% rule come in? But, I mean, who's NASCAR to say that he didn't have a mechanical issue? And so that's where they've written a rule in such a way that...
Well, it's a bluff situation, right?
Yep, exactly.
I'm calling your bluff.
Exactly. And you can't call the bluff. They'll come back to him and say, oh, no, look at this part that we have that, we sat there and filed down a little bit while you weren't looking. So
right, they poured metal shavings into the intake when nobody was looking and just fired it right back up.
I mean, but here's the thing. I think that is a consequence of, 1, the chase format, and 2, the fact that these Cup drivers are driving in that series. Now, you and I have talked about that, about Cup drivers in the series and what we would, what our ideal is and what our realistic, position has to be. But I think those two things, NASCAR, in terms of their rules, have painted themselves in a corner, and that type of thing is just going to happen.
Yeah, well, wouldn't it be a lot better, and would the conversation be any different if Sam Hornish Jr. was driving that car like he was earlier in the year? I'm pretty sure he won in that car.
I was going to say, he was vying for wins. And
so, I mean... Would that make it different, though? Would people feel different about them pulling over? Because it's obviously pulled over. I don't want to hear anyone try to justify them pulling over as anything other than they tried to give Ty every chance to transfer.
Hey, can you blame them for that, though? Like, this is
it's hard to, but we don't
do
hate
the
NASCAR.
Player, hate the game kind of rule. That's
I think you're right.
I
think you're right, but I'm going to play on the side of the fence of we don't do that in NASCAR.
Yeah, well, we talked about it.
Michael Waltrip did it, and he made one of the biggest messes we've seen since we started watching racing.
Yes.
And so, in general, I'd like to say we don't do that in NASCAR.
Right.
And because it's going to be talked about just like this.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if they didn't run that car with that express intent.
I don't even think our hats are made of tinfoil with all this stuff.
I don't think so either. I think they ran that car with the intent that Austin would pull over if Ty needed a point to transfer. And all that does is fuel the fire of the silver spoon and all that stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. Because those Austin and Ty both showed coming up through the ranks that they could race really well.
Exactly.
They're strong racers. They've reached a plateau that I think is 100% tied to the company they work for not developing good race cars. Because it's not like Newman's winning races either.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that later.
We will talk about that later.
So I think they've reached a plateau. They had to do everything they thought they could to keep Ty in contention because obviously they're trying to attract sponsorship for next year. There's rumors about what Ty is going to be doing next year. We can talk about that when we talk about the Newman thing because those are tied together. But I think what I would say to the folks that have reached out to us and asked us to comment on the Austin Dillon and the Ty Dillon situation is, RCR is not strong enough to transfer on their own merit in the Xfinity Series, and B, Austin definitely pulled off the track to try to help Ty transfer.
Right, and I'm throwing on top of that C or 3, whatever letter you're on.
Oh, I should have went 1, B, and 3.
Yeah, and then like Roman numeral 3, right?
Yeah. 3 eyes.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just saying that's a function of what NASCAR has given themselves, and that will continue to happen, and there's nothing they can do about it unless they make some more rule changes.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
100%, that's part of managing the rule book.
Right. So, other couple guys, I mean, Brandon Jones out, bummer for him. Brendan Poole and Ryan Sieg, they've had some fairy tale stories this year and just their whole story and everything that they've been doing. So,
Ryan Sieg, Georgia boy, hate to see him out. Non-sponsored, still managed to make the chase.
Exactly.
Good luck in the rest of your career. Let's keep going. Do your thing.
Exactly. Let's move on to Cup. And it's at this point that I'm introducing, y'all know I love my sound effects. I'm introducing a new sound effect. And, down in that Dawsonville pool hall, when somebody wins,
The siren.
they play that siren. Well, I think here on the PTM podcast, whenever somebody calls the winner of the race, we need to have us a horn for it.
Okay.
And I have found us a horn, and it's right up our alley, because this isn't like a celebratory horn. This horn is just like, well, you'll hear it in a second. Here it is.
It's like the grandpa fart of horns.
Yes, it is. Wah. So
I guess that's directly aimed at me.
it's aimed at you, dude. You called it. You called Jimmy Johnson as the winner. Jimmy Johnson won that race. I was very happy with my Chase Elliott pick all the way up until he crashed out, along with, 5 other guys?
Well, he got some help.
4 other guys.
Yeah.
5 total.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he took out Austin Dillon. Reboot that conversation real quick. And it got, let's see, Cowboys got a little damage, but it didn't hurt him as much.
Joey Logano got out.
Joey
this isn't all the same
out
wreck.
before.
Harvick was
Harvick
out early.
was out before. They broke
Denny
apart.
Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin blew up. It was not a good race for chasers. It's like,
No.
goodness. I mean, we got a question coming up, or a topic coming up from one of the correspondents.
I got it in the gas and up
about
section,
that. So, dang. I mean, that was a bad situation for several good cars.
Charlotte was chewing it up and spitting them out. And here's the crazy part. Hamlin crashed out, and he's still 2 or 3 points to the good after one race, of course, but still 2 or 3 points to the good after having crashed out of the race. That's how many people, that are going down.
Yeah, that's how important it is to go out late and not early. And early is the wrong word for Chase and Dillon and some other guys, because they went out at with 75 to go.
And it felt like nobody else had a shot at the checkered flag other than Jimmy Johnson, especially toward the late laps. And all these
after
Chasers
Chase
were
went
gone.
out, I mean, Chase led 103 laps.
Right.
So
right.
that's not
Which
to
that
be
was my
ignored.
pick, y'all. So I'm still not upset about the pick. I'm upset about the outcome.
Yeah, and I mean, let's look way back early. I guess, still in the tearing it down portion of the show is, Alex Bowman started second and was hauling the mail.
Yeah, he was.
Until
third,
they had
most of the race.
Tire failure. I don't know. Was it right after the competition caution? It was only 30 laps in, which is unfortunate. He collected Casey Mears with him, which sucks for them, because if they were running right behind Alex Bowman, that means they were running 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere around there. They were in the top 10.
Yep.
All in. So that sucks.
Casey Kane with another really solid finish.
Quietly finished top 3.
Top 3.
I think we had somebody on the Periscope ask if I was wearing a Casey
That's
Kane
Travis.
hat.
Yep.
I absolutely am. This is a farmer's
That's one of the new ones.
Hat.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, when did we say it? A few weeks ago, and we said, boy, if this were like a 80 race season, then Casey Kane is just coming into his groove right now.
Oh, he's hitting the glide path, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Where is it like in college where we could drop our first 35 worst test scores? Was it 35 test scores we could drop?
35?
I think it was just one.
3. It may have been just the one.
Yeah. So if we can drop the first, 30 test
That was
scores.
one of those classes where you had a quiz every week.
Yeah.
So you had 14 quizzes or whatever, and
Yeah.
you could drop
drop a
they
couple
would
of
throw
them.
out your highest and throw out your lowest. And
I hated that, because don't throw out my highest.
Damn
I
it.
studied for that one, man.
what if I was 50s
I know,
all along,
I
and
know.
then a 35 and then 100?
Right.
You've
right.
effed me on that.
Right, exactly.
Statistical
I had the
distribution.
anomaly 100 and then that
No.
average other one.
Well, we know very well.
Anyway.
I had a 6, and I had a 52, and then a bunch of 48s.
Oh, that'll happen. Had a huge restart wreck there in the race.
Oh man, what it looked like to me was, okay, so what people didn't notice as much, because they got so bent out of shape about Austin getting spun, is that when Hamlin hit Jimmy Johnson, he about lost it. He just had a little bit more asphalt to work with.
And Jimmy, we know, can wheel it.
It looked like the closing rate between the 11 and the 48 was not the same as the 78. It looked like what happened was when the 78 shifted and launched forward was when the 3 lifted to shift. So the closing rate was a lot. He probably hit him at 15 to 20 mile an hour different speed. And there's just no way to hang on to it at that point.
Yeah. So, that brings us to next week, dude. Let's gas it up. You ready?
Gas it up.
Gas it up.
Upshift. Wow.
There it is. We're going to Kansas. And I actually wrote down the wrong thing earlier. I wrote on our show notes Talladega.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
I was so ready or not ready for Talladega, whatever it was. But, yeah, Kansas. Going to Kansas. I wrote down nothing but, in our show notes here, nothing but our fan questions. I want to get straight to those because this is I love the questions that they have. We know who's good there. We know blah, blah, blah. You can look all that up. Here's the thing, though. PETM Posse brought it this week, I thought.
Yeah, brought the heat.
With the questions. So the Posse brought this one. Jeff Whitler, old Jeffrey Whitler, he's been on the show. At Whitler_Jeffrey, he says, with the five chasers that were finishing 30th or worse at Charlotte, how many of the other 6 can get to round 3 with just like top 15 finishes on the next 2 races?
Well, the answer to that is Jimmy. First and foremost.
Duh.
That's kind of a dumb answer.
Yeah.
Anybody that finished in the top 10, and I don't have that top 10 in front of me.
Yeah. I looked it up earlier, so and then I forgot. Well, Hamlin, of course. So Hamlin is the highest finisher of the people who crashed out.
He finished 30th.
Now he's like 2 or 3 points to the good, and he is 33 points out of first, and I think the next guy is 17 points out. So there's like a 15-point buffer there between, what is that, 11th and 12th? No, sorry, between 8th and...
No, I think you're thinking of between 8th and everybody else.
Yeah. Well, no, so between 7th and 8th, there's a 15-point buffer, and then between 8th and 9th, there's only like 2 or 3.
3.
So in other words, Denny Hamlin has to finish better. He's got to race harder. He's got to do everything that all these guys, because he's just bubble at this point. The other guys who are 15 points ahead, yeah, I think you try to roll around as best you can. I think you try to get I think your strategy next week is finish as high as possible, throw everything at it, and then at Talladega, it's survive. Don't wreck out. Don't be the last guy out. And whatever you got to do that. And I'm not a crew chief. I don't know what your strategy can be. Do you hold back at Talladega? We'll talk about it next week probably. But we saw what happened with Jimmy Johnson a couple of years ago when he tried to hold back at Talladega, and then he gets wrecked out because he gets caught up. And then,
or can't make his way to the front because it's a roadblock.
Right.
Ends up finishing 32nd because we never did have the big one. And there's nowhere to go. You can't pass on your own at Talladega anymore. You have to have a line.
Yep. So I think for those guys who are safe in the top 7 right now, I think you are racing clean at Kansas, and then you're racing to survive at Dega. I mean, that's got to be the strategy. And then for the guys who are Denny Hamlin and worse, if you will, the guys we already talked about. I mean, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Kevin Harvick. You have to. Here's the thing: Dillon, Chase Elliott, Logano, Harvick. All 4 of them are not making the next round. We know that at this point. I feel like we know that, right? I mean, it takes some crazy, weird stuff.
Typically, when you get behind in the very first segment, it's hard to recover unless you're capable of winning.
Now, I don't think Austin Dillon is.
He hasn't won yet.
He
so
doesn't
he's not
have the
capable of
ability
winning.
to dig in
He
to dig
led
out of the hole.
Laps
Right.
the way the 24 has.
Right.
So maybe you have a little bit more optimism for the 24.
Yep, but 24 hasn't won either.
Right.
He's
but he's a rookie, so that's a different thing.
Right. But he's been the bridesmaid and not the bride in terms of a lot of ways. But I think he can dig out. Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick. I don't know who digs out, who doesn't. I think it's hard for 3 out of all 3 out of Chase, Logano, and Harvick to dig out of that hole.
No, they certainly won't. So it's got to be whoever wins. Can any of those guys win? And we had that question too. Can any of those guys in that bottom 5 win? Mm-hmm. And the answer is 100%.
Yeah.
Anybody except Dillon can win.
Yep.
And that's not. I'm not attacking Dillon. Their cars aren't fast enough to win. Everybody else is either shown the moxie or has the company that can build the chassis to win. And some have proven it in very recent history. Joey's won the last 2 races at Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Harvick's fast everywhere. They just broke a CPU, a really weird failure for them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Denny Hamlin, Toyota hadn't broken a motor in like 3 years.
No kidding.
So, I mean,
freak
there was that
accident.
year
Chewing
where
it
it
up,
was like they
spitting
broke
them
a
out.
motor every other week. They haven't broken a motor in forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now they bitched about not having the power. Toyota finally has given them the power, and they don't break motors.
Yep.
So they had some kind of fluke go wrong, a bad spring or something. So those other guys can win. And I mentioned, but the thing is, somebody has to do it. Of that group of people, like basically what you said is somebody from that group has to win at Kansas because Talladega is too big of a long
Coin
shot.
flip.
It's total coin flip. So if of those guys, the one that's going to move on is the one that wins this week. Or finishes in the top 5
What if
and
there's a
has a
spoiler?
lot of luck at Talladega.
So if one of those doesn't win, yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. When one of those doesn't win, what do they have to do at Dega? You've just said it. They've got to have a top 5 and not
They got a
crash out
top
at Dega.
5 at Kansas, and they got a top 10 at Dega, or vice versa.
Moving on, and we'll get to picks here in a little bit, but I think still gassing it up. Martinsville has announced that they're installing lights. Pat Cleary at PatWolf13 asks us, what do you think about lights being installed at Martinsville? Sherwin?
I think it's awesome. For whatever reason they want to do it, I think it's awesome. It'll be the first sports facility in North America with LED lighting.
Yes, sir.
Which is interesting. It's a very cost-saving proposition for lighting a particular space. Junior was on hand to promote. Junior has been a very strong advocate for lights at Martinsville. He thinks night racing at Martinsville would be very much like the old school Friday and Saturday night short track stuff that people are used to. There is the old guard that has already started bitching and lighting pitchforks on fire with gasoline torches to be upset that, oh my God, we don't need more night racing. And it's like, well, Martinsville is probably the track that would be the least impacted by changes in temperature.
Good point. Because what I was going to bring up is that I'm for this. Obviously, yes, I like this. However, especially this year and especially with these cars, we've really seen a downtick in, look at Jeff Gluck's poll and stuff. The night races are just not producing what we want to see out of night races. Now, I think that's because what you were just saying, we're running at a lot of tracks that we ought not run at night. Whereas Martinsville, we maybe could run at night and not have a appreciable difference, or depreciable in that case, difference.
Yeah.
So, I'm seeing both points and all that. At first, whether or not they decide to run it at night, next year or 2 years from now or whatever they start doing it, at least it gets us an option for, there's weather in the area. They have to delay a little bit. Everybody don't have to go home. We can start the race at 6 p.m. if we have to, 7 p.m., whatever.
Correct.
But long term, I would love to see a night race at Martinsville, and then let's see how it goes.
Yeah, well, so I mean the folks that run Martinsville, basically come out and said that this is really a contingency plan for those weird situations where we have some kind of delay and it maybe getting dark. What I would say is, why not start out with a bang and run the very first race with the lights, with the total understanding that you will start when it's hot and finish when it's dark.
That's cool.
And just
I like that.
see what happens.
I like that.
And then you can advance from there. Like, how cool would it be you start that race at 4 o'clock in the spring, and you run for 2.5 hours while the sun's still up.
Yep.
And then you run for another hour and a half while it's down. That would be pretty cool.
Yep.
Finish under the lights at Martinsville feels like that Friday night, Saturday night short track kind of feel. I think that's where we're headed. Regardless of what they say in their announcement today, we are going to have a night race finish at Martinsville, and it's going to be on purpose. It's not going to be on accident.
Yep. Got another question. Somebody new who's asking a question for us. Mr. Wally Action. Been interacting with him a lot on Twitter and stuff, at Wally Action, WALLY Action. And he sends us a question about the Ryan Newman re-signing that happened this last week. Was that a mentoring opportunity for the young drivers over at RCR, or just kind of a placeholder, like let's stick this guy in there.
Yeah, like sponsors happy, they're still giving money. We're not really ready to put Ty Dillon in that car.
And so what, here's the thing that I've come to.
We got Daddy's
maybe
money in Menard.
I've succumbed to, or whatever you want to call this. Ryan Newman still has a lot of fans, whether we make fun of him or whatever.
Oh, yeah, he certainly does.
Has
Absolutely
a lot of fans,
does.
brings in a lot of money. He still wants to race. He brings in sponsors. He's got all the things that make a great driver, right? Who cares about the driving?
He doesn't.
All you got to have.
He doesn't suck at driving a race car.
Well, he doesn't suck at it, but
he sucks
that's
for
secondary.
everybody whose guy is trying to pass him,
Well,
which
there's
some
that.
owners are going to find awesome.
Right.
Although it's funny that Richard Childress does, since he was trying to get Paul Menard to pull over for Austin and trying to get Austin to pull over for Ty. So that's
It's like
weird.
a whole chain of reaction there.
Excuse me?
But but if you're in NASCAR and you're hauling the cash and you're hauling the fans, I mean, there's no good reason why you would be unsigned or demoted or whatever. So I think as long as he wants to race, he's probably got a
said
car.
on Twitter, I thought it was a smart move. I thought it was a smart move locking him up. I think Caterpillar is a fantastic sponsor for NASCAR. They're probably committed quite a bit of cash. I think one of the things a lot of people don't understand on the business side of NASCAR is that a lot of times one sponsor can help the entire garage. Like if you think about Jimmy Johnson and Lowe's, he has 36 race sponsorship from Lowe's. And add in the exhibition races, they're on the car then too.
Yeah.
There are very few cars that have 100% sponsorship from one corporation. And that corporation is typically really giving off the money. I mean, junior sponsorship, you got to figure, is pretty equal in terms of dollar commitment. But when you can get that one company to say, hey, we are here, we're on the car, we're doing our thing. Not to say that Caterpillar is 100% sponsorship for the 31 car, because they're not. They're off it a little bit. For the most part, they're on it. And that's a big part of doing business. That's why Menard is so important to RCR, is that that's almost 100% commitment with some additional. I mean, they've got some Duracell support. They got a paint program.
Yep.
I can't remember the exact company. It doesn't matter. But, those things all matter. Like, that money all drives everybody.
Yeah. So I would think, to answer this question, is the re-signing a mentoring opportunity or just a placeholder? I think it is a money
I think it's a money
issue, a money grab. But I'm not saying they shouldn't. Wouldn't you? You know what I mean? But first and
this
foremost,
is no belittlement. If you call it a money grab, this is not belittling.
Yeah, he's got the fans.
That's good business.
He's still got the talent. He's got the fans. He's got the money bringing in, and so then they can shoehorn that into being an opportunity for mentoring. They can certainly add that onto. Ryan Newman could add that onto his resume.
Well, I think if you ask Chase Elliott, I think Brian Newman has already mentored Ty Dillon quite a bit.
Sure.
About how wide he makes his car.
Well, there's that. There's that. And, that takes us to, let's get to picks. You ready to pick some cars?
Yeah, I'll try.
We know our guy. Well, I already gave you the horn, which means that you are obviously the highest finisher, so you get to pick first.
Okay. All right. Well,
I know who I'm picking.
I know.
Don't pick him because I don't have a backup.
Yeah, that's okay. I may pick your guy. I'm
Okay.
sorry if I do.
No, go ahead.
I am going to pick Middletown, Connecticut's own Joey Logano.
Excellent. Well, he's in that list of drivers we talked about. So I picked Kyle Larson to do this last time. I said Kyle Larson's on the bubble. I think he wins the third race of the last round or whatever. You've got Logano's second round. Talk to me about it.
Well, Joey's won 2 in a row at Kansas.
There's that.
He's kind of in a slumparooski, so to speak. And they're plenty fast. Like, they're not. It's not like they're fading to the back. They're not slow. And I think Penske and the group's going to pull out all stops. So I think Joey's very comfortable at Kansas, and I think he's going to win the race. I think he's going to win the race.
Well, so of that bottom 5 we talked about, I think he has certainly the motivation. They're going to throw the equipment, and like you said, he's won. He's
well. I
two in a
think
row
they
there.
tested something
That's
at
the
Charlotte.
best.
I think what happened I
Could be.
think they were fooling around with Camber,
Could
to be
be.
honest with you.
Well, they didn't want to sit in the points position they are after fooling with it, but they they have an opportunity here. I'm doing it for 2 Kansas races in a row. Kansas at Kansas, dude.
Kansas
at Kansas. I'm doing it again. I think just because of the alliteration. I have no other reason. No, I mean he's still quietly doing his thing. You know, he's surviving again.
He was right up there.
Yep.
He had a really good run at Charlotte in the daytime.
Yep. Now is the point where we start seeing these guys pop out. I mean, Jimmy Johnson has just popped out and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm still here, boys. I'm still running for championship." Kenseth, I think, he pops out here and says, "Hey guys, remember me? You haven't talked about me in a little while, but I'm still doing it." So, Kansas at Kansas, dude.
That'll be fun. Should be a good race.
Looking forward to it.
A lot of grooves at Kansas.
Yep. I may have to be watching that one on DVR. Me and our esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, where it's our wedding anniversary. Well, it was yesterday. We're going out to celebrate up in Deputy Hines territory, actually, up in Pennsylvania. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We'll be going to Hershey Park. So we go to a different roller coaster park in the U.S. every year for our anniversary. So Hershey Park.
So where do you fly into to go to Hershey Park?
It's actually Harrisburg International or
They
Harrisburg.
have an airport?
I don't know if it's even national or international, but Harrisburg. Yep, flying into there. So looking forward to that. But got another question. One other question from our buddy Jim Utter, and we're not talking about the guy who does the reporting and stuff. Nope, Jim _UDDER. He's a great guy out there. Just moved back to Charlotte from Chicago. Sounds like he's having a blast. And he says, does being day drunk and unemployed go together? What do you think, Sherwin?
I think it does. I mean, I think at least for a minute, I wouldn't, obviously there's nothing funny about being unemployed, but for sure, a couple days when you're not lining up interviews, get good and drunk in the afternoon.
Yeah, just see what happens. Go outside, make fun of the lady, walking her cat or something.
Download that Uber app and get a little drunk and go somewhere.
Well, I'll tell you this much. It might be like a square versus a rectangle, like all rectangles are all squares are rectangles, but not the other way around. Like,
correct.
I haven't, knock on wood here, haven't been unemployed in a long time, but I've certainly been day drunk. So, but certainly I think...
I'm going to be day drunk on Saturday.
Well, there you go. Sherwin, you got some shout-outs for us.
I do have one super one in particular, and then we have the other one.
Wait, before you do it, because we haven't played it in a while. Here's our shout-out. Me and my sounds, y'all.
Okay, so first shout-out goes to Greg Jr. That's at Greg Whited Jr. Is doing his level best to try to garner some sponsorship for United States Marine Corps veteran Lance Corporal Josh White. And they're trying to get him into the Jennifer Jo Cobb race in number 10 truck for Martinsville for starters, and then maybe for the rest of the year if they can. So we wish them all the luck in the world of getting the sponsorship so he can get on the track and run those races. And obviously, by now, we have a strong support for United States military.
Yeah, well, here. So, I'm not wearing a hat, but I'm just putting on a hat so I can take off my hat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So,
hats off to you,
for
bub.
sure, hats off to Lance Corporal, veteran Josh White, trying to get some sponsorship in the
get his butt in the car.
10 car, or truck, excuse me. So we wish them all the luck. We're going to try to help promote that for them a little bit.
How cool would it be for him to get a top 10 somewhere and get interviewed or something? He'd just start telling stories, y'all.
Well, we need to get him and Kenny linked up.
No kidding.
Somehow or another. And second shout out goes out to Jessica Tao, PR rep for New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We were going to have on the show a couple of weeks ago with Weaver.
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Travel just get right in the way of that. Mm-hmm. But Jess couldn't be on the show tonight because she had a tonsillectomy. And obviously there's not a whole lot of talking to be done when you have one of those kind of surgeries. So we're going to hope she can be with us with Matt Weaver next week. If not, we'll get them on here for you in the near future.
Absolutely.
But wishing her a quick recovery.
Yeah, I don't know what the recovery time is, but hopefully it's in the, days range and not the, weeks, months.
For sure.
Speaking of time frames and all that. Anybody else shout out? We good?
No, I don't think I gave her
right.
Twitter handle. It's at JESS_TOW, Jess Tao.
Brings us with our Strange with Stang. It's back, dude.
She's back.
She's back.
Ashley is back.
She's back and strong as ever with the questions. Thank you, Ashley, for the questions. Glad you're feeling better. Glad for the recovery so far, and always wishing her well on that. Let's bring it. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
It's a challenge. All right.
It is a challenge.
You gotta. All right. You gotta combine 3 tablespoons of 2 different ingredients each. So is that like 6 tablespoons?
That's a spit road.
That's almost half a cup. Is it 3 tablespoons of total 3 tablespoons of 2 different ingredients? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's do it that way because I'm not going to put 6 tablespoons of something. That's like a half a cup of something. That's ridiculous. So let's do this. Sorry. 3 tablespoons.
She's saying it is 6.
Oh my God!
It's 3 of each.
All right, 3 of each. Here we go. We're gonna do it.
I mean, in a quart jar, I hope.
Yeah, 3. All right, 3 tablespoons of one spice out of your cabinet, and 3 tablespoons of another spice out of your cabinet, and you're gonna stick that into your beer and have to drink it. So what?
Or your whiskey.
What you drinking is the question.
Well, the thing is, we're supposed to pick each other's.
Well,
so
yeah,
do we
yeah.
do this nicely, knowing it's already gonna suck?
No,
or do we
hell
be
no.
Really mean.
Oh no, I'm going to be mean as crap. No, but I mean, for me, it would have to be something like it depends.
Well,
on
it has
what
to
you
be
call
in your
spice
spice
too.
cabinet.
Like, I mean, I've got cinnamon in there. I know cinnamon challenge on 3 tablespoons of it. But what else do you want? You want freaking garlic or something?
I don't know.
You know?
Garlic's better than cinnamon.
Well,
promise you.
Maybe nutmeg. I got nutmeg. That might, but I don't know what 3 tablespoons of nutmeg tastes like.
3
That could be
tablespoons is
terrible.
the entire little thing.
yeah, that
Those little plastic
tin
shaker
can
deals that I have the ginger in and stuff.
Yeah. So, maybe here's maybe one I'd pick for myself: onion powder. That's not too it's not too over the top powerful. I don't know though. I don't know.
First of all, I'm Ralphing no matter what.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm Ralphing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm gonna hork.
I thought basil would be okay.
Is that a spice or an herb? Is that allowed?
Oh, that may not be allowed.
Right. So
you're right. That is an herb.
Yeah. So I was thinking spices. See, and here's the problem. I don't use 3 tablespoons of garlic on a 10-pound pork shoulder.
No, not even.
I don't
chance.
use 3
No.
I maybe a tablespoon in there on that big a one,
sir.
but goodness gracious. And she said, oh, by the way, she said she had to do that challenge over this last weekend.
Yeah,
Ghost
so
pepper flakes. Somebody's saying on the Periscope.
Go ahead and go straight to hell with that.
Well, so if I'm picking for you, obviously I'm going to pick cayenne pepper, and and the second one I got to
make me say the F word.
I'm going. Well, you said you didn't want cinnamon, but we've already got the 2
tablespoons
flavor.
would be a lot, y'all. 3.
Yeah,
what are we even
3.
talking
Why
about?
That's
like
a
half that's a quarter cup.
Yeah,
or something.
That's what I'm saying. 3 tablespoons is 3/8 of a cup. I've been calling it half a cup, but it's 3/8.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's
so
more than a third. I have a little third cup.
I'll give you cayenne pepper and garlic powder,
and then we will commence to a crotch kick fight. After I finish barfing.
Do I go first? Well, still, your mouth will be on fire, so maybe the kick won't be as hard.
Oh yeah, I'll be and eyes. All right, so what am I giving you? All right, I'm giving you. I can't give you the same thing so I got to get okay. So and it's got to be a spice, which means it's got to be like a powder thing. All right, I'm giving you cinnamon and mustard.
Oh, mustard! Well done. I thought about mustard for you. I was thinking that spice. That's a great choice. Love it.
So
cinnamon mustard. I think I came out on the positive end on that deal. Compared
well, the cayenne.
that might be the one that I would want to do for myself too. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, all right. We've had too much fun, y'all. Let's start bringing this thing up. You ready to do this?
Jelly beans.
Oh yeah. Close out challenge.
Hold on.
I'm hogging them.
Yeah, give me some
Coming your way.
All right.
There you go. In the mouth. Down in the head. Y'all.
These damn jelly beans, they don't really suck at all.
Y'all know what to do. Y'all got to follow us.
Tastes like beer.
At PETM Podcast and get a sticker. Listen,
get your damn sticker.
if you're
I'm
sitting
tired of damn telling y'all.
If you're sitting there and you're looking on your cooler, or you're looking on the tailgate of your truck, or you're looking on the wall, and they're hitting a PETM sticker on there, it's free, y'all. It's free. And we ain't gonna send you no spam either.
No, there's no spam.
Nope, ain't nothing like that.
No, we just send you a damn sticker, and you put it on something, and then you send us a picture back, and you end up on the Wall of Fame over here.
You end up on the Wall of Fame on the website. Y'all do it. And hey, if nothing else, free sticker, right?
Free sticker.
At PETMpodcast.com. Y'all know where to follow me, at Tailgate Mayor.
Y'all know where to follow me, at Pregame ENG.
We're going to talk to y'all next week.
Yeah, we will.
Thanks, Juliette.
Thank you to Juliette Miranda. Thumbs up.